Members, the question is that the motion be agreed to.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I have begun with a very solemn duty to the people of New Zealand, and principally to those many people from overseas who might be interested in investing in New Zealand, to point out that, believe it or not, was the nation's Minister of Finance. And that is the best that he could do, because if there is one thing that's become patently obvious in this budget that was obsolete the day that it was delivered, is that this government does not have a plan. They have nothing to say to the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders who are doing it tough, who have been squeezed and are looking for a future. Well, they won't find it on that side of the House. They won't find it in that person who parades as the Minister of Finance, because they have no plan. Well, that's not quite correct, Mr Speaker. We've discovered actually in today's question time and in that speech, there is one plan emerging, and it's all around tourism. Because, you know, we haven't heard about tourism for most of the last 7 years, but now a new tourist opportunity has opened up. And it's going to involve weekly visits to the Cabinet room, and they're going to call it Fantasyland tours, because that's all they've got left. They have lived for the last 7 years with their heads buried firmly in the sand, with a rising tide of indebtedness by government and concern by the people and falling dairy prices, and they have nothing to say about any of it. It was a budget, as I say, that was obsolete the day it was delivered. And their sole claim to fame is that on the 1st of April next year, after years of poverty by those who are doing it the toughest, those who are dependent on a benefit to get by, they're going to increase it by $25 a week, or some of them at least anyway. This follows their great strategic decision in 1991 to slash them even more harshly. And now they claim credit for half undoing what they did wrong 20 years ago. That's their plan. That's all it amounts to. No morality, no principle, no really looking after those who are doing the toughest. That's all they have to say and do. Just remember what the underpinning expectations of this budget was. The unemployment would fall to 5.6% by March. What's happening now? What's happening now? It's rising. They said that unemployment would be 5.1% by next March. Westpac's now saying it's going to be 6.5%. Wow. The budget forecast the milk price to be over $3,000 a tonne by now, and now it's less than half that. This is the budget that got it all wrong. This is the government that's getting it wrong for New Zealanders every day now. There is no plan. There is no idea. They don't know what they're doing. There's spin, there's rhetoric, there's dissembling, there's obfuscation. That's all they've got left. And Mike Hoskin. That's the other part of the plan. They've got that as well. He'll look after them for a while. He'll look after them for a while, but it won't last. Because the truth is this. The truth is this. New Zealanders are far too canny for that. And they know a dead man walking when they see one, and they see it in that Minister of Finance, they see it in this government. We know they're desperate. We know they're desperate because all of a sudden, 7 years into their government, when they've stood on the sidelines cheering on dairy, cheering on wood prices, cheering on the things that they have absolutely nothing to do with, reducing interest rates, a stratospheric exchange rate and high dollar, now they've started talking about diversification. But they only talk about it when they get the patsy questions of Parliament. They only talk about it around here for the first time, because they haven't done a thing about it. They have ignored it. They have ignored what's been happening in New Zealand. They have ignored what's been happening around the world and the impact that's been having on the New Zealand economy for far too long. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. And New Zealanders, hard-working New Zealanders, are now paying the price. They're losing their jobs, and losing their jobs in the hundreds. And the solid energy workers are just the latest. And who knows what's going to happen to the land court workers when they start flogging off bits of that successful enterprise. The truth is this. When this government took office, it had the strongest balance sheet in the OECD. That's why they had in 2008. Zero net debt, zero net debt, and the lowest unemployment in the OECD. Well, how things have changed. It's been a long 7 years. It's been a long 7 years. They haven't diversified the economy. They promised that they would lift the proportion of the economy given to exports. It's gone down. They can't even get that right. They've scrapped research and development tax credits. They've introduced unaffordable tax cuts. They've made housing unaffordable for more people, and property speculation is now running rampant. This is the legacy of Bill English. This is the legacy of the most ideological Minister of Finance we've had since Ruth Richardson. And he was around at that time as well. He obviously learned a thing or two. They ignored the Goldman Sachs report last year that predicted a dairy glut that would last the next 5 years. Stephen Joyce dismissed it because they just do not want to face up to the truth. And now we've had a collapsing dairy price and nothing else to show for it. Well, I can tell you this, Mr. Speaker, what has become very clear in the last few weeks and the last few months. New Zealanders are sick and tired of the spin and the obfuscation and trying to put them off the scent. They don't want a flag referendum. They don't want to spend $26 million on a distraction. They want a government that's going to deal with the answers to the economy today. They want a government that's going to stand up for the people who are doing it tough, which now includes a large number of dairy farmers who traditionally voted for them. They're the ones who are looking for answers. They're the ones who are looking for leadership that this government has proven incapable of providing. But I want to say this also, Mr. Speaker, what the people of New Zealand are sick and tired of as well. They are sick and tired of government support parties who parade around the country criticising the government that they're part of, telling them that they can do it better, criticising them for all manner of things, moralising, proselytising, saying that it would never happen with them, and they go ahead and support it. So the challenge is very clear to the support parties to this government. Stick to your own word. Stick behind your words. Vote against this budget. Show this government you stand for something. Don't say one thing to the people of New Zealand out there and then come around here and slink around and do a different thing in this House. Think very carefully, because New Zealanders are looking for leadership. And most importantly, they are looking for honesty. They want an honest picture about where things are at. They want an honest picture about their prospects and their hopes, because they're not getting it from here. The country is calling for a different path. They are calling for a different approach. And they don't want the state houses that are there for the most vulnerable, there for those who are doing the toughest. They don't want them sold off. They don't want Landcorp sold off. They don't want Crown business after Crown business run into the ground by negligent, reckless ministers who are asleep at the wheel and turn up and get the salaries, drive the cars, but do nothing for it. New Zealand is looking for something different. They want a government that cares about this country and its economic prospects. They want a government that is thinking about the future of work, where those work opportunities are going to come from. They want a government that's thinking about future investment opportunities. They want a government that cares about job generation and new investment, and investment that generates new wealth. They want a government that cares about the incomes that New Zealanders are on, and incomes that mean they can live in dignity and they can fulfil their dreams and aspirations. Because for far too many people, that is slipping by. So many New Zealanders now, thousands, who cannot afford to buy a house in the city in which they live and work, Auckland. And that is a disgrace. And the government, what do? Bury their heads in the sand. Not our problem. We don't have an answer. And actually, what they're saying is they just don't care. That's right. New Zealanders are sick and tired of being treated by this government as if they don't matter. New Zealand needs a better job. They need a better government, and it's on its way.